Hola a todos! So I'm going to go through some final tips for A-Level Spanish Paper 1, which is on the morning of the Tuesday the 3rd of June this year, and then in the second half of this video I'm going to speedrun a gap fill question. So firstly, the subjunctive usually always is going to make an appearance in one of the two translation questions at the end of the paper, so please make sure you can recognize like when to use it, learn the common triggers, for example, no pienso que, which is always followed by the present subjunctive, stuff like quiero que, so showing your desire, or showing sort of desire and need, and then slightly harder ones like para que, which is also always followed by the subjunctive. And then make sure you can conjugate the subjunctive correctly into Spanish and translate it and things like that. This includes for the imperfect subjunctive, which we know has two sets of endings, and both endings are used by AQA. And then secondly, in terms of the paper as a whole, I would start off with the translation questions first. This is what I did in my paper when I sat it last year when I sat this exam, and it's my advice is what I'd recommend. Simply because if you get your first draft of the both translation questions done nice and early, at the end of the paper you can go back again and make some changes. And as you do the middle bit of the paper, you might see some vocab and stuff that you need for the translation. So I would let your mind subconsciously think about the translations once you've attempted them first. Then I would do the listening section, and lastly end off with reading. You'll be in a computer room and you'll be able to sort of play and pause and rewind the audio as much as you want. In total, you get 2.5 hours, so time should not be an issue in this exam. Okay, thirdly, irregular verbs. Please make sure you know the common irregulars. They come up, especially in translation questions, a lot. I'm filming these videos in a weird order, but I should have a video going through irregular verbs on my channel posted pretty recently. So have a look at my latest videos and hopefully I've got a video on irregular verbs. The main thing you can do to revise for this paper is generally vocabulary. I would, at this point, be going through the vocab for each module in the Blue Oxford textbooks. Hopefully you already know most of these because you've learned them over the past 2 years. Also put this vocab onto Anki, and I'll put the Anki links of the link to get the Anki decks in the description. I've made a couple of Anki videos last year going through vocab with like music in the background. So see if that's something you like watching, if that's helpful for you, if you don't want to use Anki yourself and download the application. And I've also got the exact same words on quizzes, so I'll put a link for them in the description and in the comments as well. For the summary questions for both listening and reading, they're 12 marks each. You don't need to change any of the actual vocabulary or use synonyms. You can lift directly from the text, but what you do need to do is change the grammar. So manipulating things like me gusta into le gusta. The text will normally always be in the first person, and it's up to you to write your summary in the third person. I've got a whole separate video about the summary questions that I made last year. There's lots of misconceptions around these. This is also my first year doing a live session the night before the exams. So on Monday at 8 p.m, I'll be going through lots of niche paper 1 tips and misconceptions. So you can buy a ticket to that session on astarspanish.com/revision if you'd like. No pressure though. Even watching my other paper 1 videos should be super helpful. Paper 1 is 50% of your full A-level grade. It's quite an important paper, so please make sure you revise well and you go in the exam feeling confident. Grammar-wise, things you also need to know are your pronouns. So that includes reflexive, me, te, se, nos, os, se. Direct object pronouns, me, te, le, lo, la, nos, os, los, and las. Your indirect object pronouns, me, te, le, nos, os, les. And lastly, subject pronouns, the easiest ones hopefully, yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. If you don't know any of those, please Google them. For me, I would say the gap fill is one of the easier questions. It's one that looks tricky, but in reality, it's the exam technique that's tricky because they've got lots of hints and sort of tricks in there that make it quite easy. It's almost just like a guessing game. I've got a long list of them, so I'm going to pick one to do now for you guys, and we'll see how quickly I can do this question. Okay, so this is the gap fill. I'm going to see how quickly I can do this whilst also explaining to you guys my thought process, and yeah, how I would do this question. I'm going to set a stopwatch and see how long it takes me. Okay, let's get started. So 3, 2, 1, empezamos. So my first thing is going straight onto the list of words and just translating them. So conseguir, if I do it in blue, conseguir is to achieve. Llega is arrives, like he or she arrives in the present tense, arrives. Conocerse is the infinitive, like to know itself or to know like oneself or something like that because it's reflexive, conocerse. Cuánto is like maybe like how much. There's meant to be an accent there, I think, but cuánto, yeah, something about sort of how much. Casi is the word almost. Colaboren is going to be what, like they collaborate, however I spell that. Ends in en, your present tense, colaborar, is an AR verb actually, but it must be the subjunctive then. Omitirse, to omit, looks like that, even though it's reflexive there. Bordo, like boarded, some sort of like plane or train, boarded. Irian, they would go. This is your conditionals. Yeah, they would go. Cerca is like nearby or close to. Alcanzar is quite a good one, to reach. And actually, earlier we saw conseguir, didn't we? So we've got a bit of a pattern here, or a link. I'm always thinking about what words pair together. So at some point in my gaps, I'm going to have either picking from conseguir or alcanzar because they have quite similar meanings and they're both in the infinitive form. Hambrunas is like the lack of food from like the word hambre. Um, famine is the English word, isn't it? Like famines in this case is plural. Llegaron, they arrived in the preterite tense. I can't spell. Are you there? This is a subjunctive for sure. Helps or whatever, but this is a subjunctive, the present subjunctive. Van is they go. And particular, I think, is just the same as in like particular in English. Okay, super quick. Now we're going on to the words and the gaps themselves. Oops. And filling them in based on what makes sense. So en el pasado, something there, what is this number? 2,500 inmigrantes llegaron a las costas. I was going to say llegaron here actually because that's one of the gaps here, one of the words here, but we wouldn't have obviously llegaron here if llegaron's right there. So casi, no, it wouldn't be casi de, it would just be casi 2,000. Cuánto, cerca. Yeah, cerca is going to make sense here. Like what, close to 12,000, cerca there is the preposition that comes after cerca is there, so that one makes sense. I'm happy to say cerca there. And actually, also in this list, I'm thinking about things like infinitives. So if I highlight the infinitives in blue, conseguir is an infinitive, alcanzar is your infinitive, omitirse, conocerse. Then I'm thinking about conjugated verbs. So llega, colaboren, irían, llegaron, ayude, van are your conjugated verbs. I'm just thinking about those. So when I do the gaps, it makes it easier for me to spot in the exam and also, physically highlight the words based on their grammar sort of type. Okay, the first one, okay, I'm happy with that. Next one, y Canarias are something pateras y cayucos. Pateras being the sort of thingies that immigrants sort of travel in, and cayucos being like kayaks, I think, like the boats. What is this one going to be? Canarias, is it going to be a verb? Llegaron a las costas Andalucías y Canarias. No, talking about method of transport. A bordo, let's a H in there. Like on board, that makes sense to me. A bordo, yeah. It wouldn't be any of the other ones. Las costas canarias fueran las que registraron mayor afluencia. Doesn't matter that sentence because doesn't have a gap in there anyway. Okay, and something Andalucía. Ha recibido. So we've got the verb ha recibido there. En llega a Andalucía, en cuanto a Andalucía, in regards to, en cuanto is like with regards to, so en cuanto a Andalucía, ha recibido a unas blah blah blah, lo que supone un descenso is like a decrease frente a las 3,000 que something el año anterior. So this is saying the last year, so it's going to be the preterite tense. Llegaron, or that's the only preterite one is llegaron, isn't it? Lo que supone un descenso frente a las 3,000 que llegaron, the 3,000 that arrived, that makes sense. Llegaron el año anterior. Good. Okay, we can skip the next sentence because it doesn't have a gap in it. Alrededor de 500 personas perdieron la vida intentando tierra de forma clandestina. Is like hidden or illegal. Clandestina. Tierra is the word for like ground or like, yeah, ground, land. I'm thinking ganar tierra. I've heard that as an expression before, ganar tierra. But ganar isn't in a list. It must be an infinitive here then. After intentando, we wouldn't have a conjugated verb. It has to be an infinitive way, doesn't it? Perdieron la vida intentando. Any of these blue ones then. Conseguir tierra, conocer tierra, omitirse tierra, alcanzar tierra. Alcanzar, to reach, like to reach land. It's talking about like reaching the shore or reaching the land. What letter is that? L. I'm going to lock in L there. I am happy with that. I can always go back and change it if there's a mistake. And in the exam, if you don't know what it is, you skip it. And you can always go back afterwards. Okay, blah, 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 blah. En concreto, la organización ha verificado desde el 1 de enero más de 475 muertes en el mar en las rutas que something hacia la península. Las rutas is a plural noun. This is going to be one of the ones that end in like N. Colaboren, irían, van. So irían and van are both from ir. One's in the conditional, one's in the present tense. It's going to be one of those. So the examiner have put those two words almost like similar words, but just in different tenses for you to pick between those two. So it's going to be one of those, I think, here. It's talking about the route going towards. Hacia means towards, so I'm happy with that. Las rutas que irían hacia. No, that they go currently. Que van. Que van. Hacia, that took me way longer to get, but van, I think that one is. Cross it out, thank you. Una cifra que podría ser mucho mayor porque la mayoría de los naufragios, what does that mean? I don't know. No llegan a naufragios. Just talking about the sea, isn't it? It's like submarines. I don't know. They don't reach like the coast or the country, or una cifra que podría ser mucho mayor porque la mayoría de los naufragios no llegan a. Well, it could be. I'm just thinking llega a ser is like to become, so llegan a ser, but we haven't got ser in here. Could it be another infinitive? Llegan a conseguir, llegan a. It couldn't be a conjugated verb because you can't have like two that close together, right? So it couldn't be conocerse, omitirse. It's gonna be one of the blue ones I'm thinking here. No llegan a casi, hambrunas, particular. So they don't reach to like become. Conocerse, to like know itself. It wouldn't be omitirse. That one just doesn't link. It's gonna be either A or C. I'm thinking. Have we used A before? Of course not. No, we haven't. C or A. Conocerse, llegan a conocerse. Conseguir is like to achieve or to get. It's not like even reflexive there. But conocerse could have other meanings because it's reflexive. I'm gonna put in conocerse. Reflexive verbs tend to have like more sort of complex meanings. Conseguir is like to get or to achieve. No llegan a achieve. I don't know. I'm gonna look in conocerse for the time being. I'm not sure about that one, but I'm gonna move on. Okay, three more left. So, y pide que el gobierno que realiza el gobierno español no es suficiente. Y pide que, this is your subjunctive, right? Like quiero que, pedir que. So, ayude was the only and colaboren. They were both subjunctive, wasn't it? Because colaborar is the AR verb. Y pide que el gobierno. So the association is asking the government. The government's a singular thing. So ayude is a letter P. That one's quite easy because it's subjunctive. Ayude más a las personas que consiguen llegar a España si uno examina la situación detenidamente. Se conclusion, like you reach the conclusion of something. Se, is it se because it's reflexive or because it's passive voice? Se can either mean one of two things. Either it's reflexive, like se llama, or it's passive voice. In this case, it's going to be a verb after se. Either way, it's going to be a verb after se. Llega, colaboran, irían. To arrive, you reach the conclusion. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Se llega a la conclusión. I think that's going to be the passive voice then. Like a conclusion is reached. Blah blah blah. I've seen atajar before, but I don't know what it means. I've forgotten like to tie. I think maybe atajar to tie. Debido a los graves problemas. Okay, one more gap left. Something y quedas principalmente. We've got a comma and an e. So it's going to be like a list of things. It's going to be a noun. A noun is in like a few nouns. Hambrunas is a noun. Yeah. What does that mean? Famines. So graves problemas, famines y guerras. Yeah. It's a list of sort of like negative events, isn't it? I'm happy with that. So those are my answers I'm looking in. It's been 9.5 minutes. I'm gonna lock in those answers. Yeah. So just to recap how I've gone through this, I've gone through the list of words first, read them, translate them if you need to, but you can do this in your head. In the exam, I wouldn't write it out, but for today I did. But do this in your head, just translate them all quickly, and then go through the words and just start picking them like that. Okay, I'm gonna find the mark scheme now and see if I got them all correct. Okay, I've pulled up the mark scheme. I'll put it on the screen as well, actually. So let's quickly mark it. So K is correct, H is correct, D is correct, N is correct, good, L is correct, Q, C is correct. That's the one I was unsure about. C is correct. That's good. What is that? P, B, and M. Okay, perfect. Full marks. There's only 10 marks. Perfect. That's really good. I wish you all the best of luck for your exam, which is like a couple of days away. I'm doing a night before lesson, as I already mentioned in this video, on the Monday night. So I'd love to see some of you there on astarspanish.com/revision. Drop a comment if you've got any questions. I'm happy to answer lots of questions before your exam. Also, follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be doing lots of stories and posting some tips and things like that. So follow me on @astarspanish on Instagram. Vale, I think that's all that needs to be said. Adios.